is that the foreign people that are around here mostly are from the former USSR countries, um, like Belarus, Kazakhstan. Like not really, very few people are from like Africa. The ones you meet are maybe students mostly in, and they are from West Africa, a few Kenyans, and mostly from Central Africa and West Africa, but a few Kenyans. Other African people that I've met, maybe African Americans who come here to maybe play basketball professionally. Yeah, so those are the foreigners we have here. And then if you meet someone who looks like a Chinese, it's not a Chinese. They're actually Russians. So in Russia we have like is it an ethnic group or something like that? But they're called Yakutians. They look like people from Mongolia or China. Okay, they have like the Asian look, but they're actually Russians and they speak Russian. I mean, they were born in Russia, so they are really Russians. Um, Another thing is that almost every family has like a summer house where during summer people go there to plant in their gardens, and they will plant vegetables, and they would pick maybe apples and berries. Like there's so many types of berries, so they use these berries to make jam and just to eat or make wine drinks. um, Again, not all parts of Russia is filled with snow, so that is one thing I learned. Like the south part of Russia, like in places like Sochi and any south part of Russia, most people don't even know what snow is. Like they've not seen snow. So it's not everywhere that you'll find snow. Maybe in Moscow, St. Petersburg, of course, the more north you go, the more colder it becomes. Uh, so not everywhere in Russia is cold. Um, Another thing is that Russians love to pickle, like especially cucumbers and tomatoes, like the vegetables, and this is done in summer. So at summer or beginning of autumn, and they do that so that they can save up for winter, because in winter you getting these vegetables might be a problem. So they love to pickle because they need it in the winter, and of course the winters are crazy, so even going outside sometimes might be a problem. So they will have like storages for the underground storages for those who live in the villages. For those who live in town, you can just use your fridge and freezer to store this kind of fruit, this kind of vegetables. Um, Another thing is that I don't know if I said they love to travel. Anyway, another thing I noticed is that most of the families here have two kids, and it's not it will not be surprising if you find like maybe if you're married to a Russian, like your husband has only one brother, or that is the only kid in the family. So especially my husband's generation, there are two kids or one kid, and it's because that time when like about 30 plus years ago, it was a hard time in Russia, so people preferred having less children because there was no need for you to have many kids when you cannot like afford to sustain them. And so you'd find families either have like two kids or one kid at that time. And right now, there are people who prefer not to have kids. There are those who prefer to have kids, but mostly each family has about two kids, and it's very normal for them. Unlike my family, where we are five kids and we are very comfortable with that number, my parents are very comfortable with that number. Um, and I know averagely, like most Kenyan families have about three kids. That is an average, three kids, 3 or 4 kids. Yeah. Another thing that was surprising for me was seeing women smoking, like, and very comfortably under the streets despite the age. Like, you meet a 70-year-old smoking, or like 30-year-old or 40-year-old, it doesn't matter, they smoke, and it's not a big deal. Well, the reason why they smoke, one is because it is cold. Secondly is because it's assumed that it is easier to make friends, especially for women who are single. When you smoke, you can like use an excuse of asking for a lighter to make friends, and maybe find yourself a husband. I don't know, but it's an assumption that is made. So it will not be surprising for you to see someone smoking. And also teenagers, you might see teenagers smoking. It is not right, it is not legal for a teenager to for someone to sell cigarettes to a teenager, but you'd find teenagers sometimes smoking. And honestly, the African in me sometimes would make me want to go and just hit the kid's head and tell them how that is wrong, and it's not good for their health. They're like, why are they like trying to ruin what God has created in them? I mean, if they can keep themselves warm, I don't understand why they would actually want to smoke. For both men and female and male, it didn't just make sense to me. So, well, it's very common to find teenagers and women smoking here. Um, Another thing is that Russians love tea. Like, you would go to like visit a friend, and the first thing they would offer you is tea, black tea, that is. And very few Russians take sugared tea. So most of the time it's just black tea with no sugar, or coffee, no sugar at all. And it's really selling. So if I actually saw Kenyan tea in Russia, and I really felt proud. So if you're offered tea here, black tea with no sugar, don't be surprised. It's not disrespectful. It's actually the most respectful thing, or a friendly thing a Russian would do for you. And good thing is that if you have a sweet tooth, yeah, there's always sweets on the table, so you can pick some sweets and take with the tea. Yeah. That's the most interesting thing. Also, they love cats. I think every family has a cat. For me, I don't like cats. I'm allergic to cats. Not that I have anything against them, but I'm just allergic to cats. I would never want to have a cat around me. But almost every family has a cat or a dog. So even the advertisements you have are mostly about cats and medicine and designer items or cars. Oh, by the way, they don't advertise cigarette or alcohol. They don't advertise it. It's very illegal. So I mean, like I think every family, almost every family or a grandma has a cat. Wow, I don't even understand how. In my country, I only see cats with very few people, and they need to serve the purpose of eating mice. But here, there is cat food. Honestly, for me, I don't know. Not that I don't like pets, but it doesn't make sense. Doesn't really make sense. Okay, yeah, it gives company, especially for older people whose children have already like moved out and have kids of their own. Well, it would make sense for them. But a young person who is married with a kid, it doesn't make sense to have cats. Or maybe it's just me speaking because I don't like cats. Well, that's just my opinion. I love dogs. I would have dogs anytime. Yeah, because they're friendly. Um, well, what is the other thing that I learned about? Oh yeah, about if you want to give flowers to a Russian, of course a woman, on birthdays, it's very common to give flowers as presents. Uh, my little bunny is doing some interesting thing. you should never give an even number of flowers. If you have to give flowers, please give odd numbers, either one stalk of a flower, three. It just has to be odd number. uh if you use even numbers are only used on when you're going for funeral, like two flowers or four or six, whichever number. So be careful about that. Another thing, they don't like taking money in hand. Like if you go even to a shop, if you have to pay, you have to put the money down on the counter, and then the shopkeeper will pick it from the counter. Like they don't believe in giving money direct. There's a belief that if you give direct, you like selling away your luck to get more money. So it's widespread. Anywhere you go, please don't be offended if you find that a Russian is not taking your money straight on their hand. They will ask you to put it on a table, and then they will pick it from the table. It's just a belief they have. What else? uh